guys, welcome to FanFictionally. My name is Lindsay. This is episode 1. I'm very excited to get started. Welcome to my little corner of the internet. I have my cup of coffee. You should grab a cup too. Have a seat. We're going to talk about fan fiction, basically. So what I want to cover is kind of do's and don'ts, how I got started, what inspires me, what inspires you, answer questions, go over some maybe do's and don'ts, maybe some etiquette and commenting on writers' works and things like that. Most of the stuff that I write is One Piece. Well, actually, we can go ahead and say all of it. I have one book, I think, that's not One Piece. It's only 2 chapters long, and I'm probably never going to write in it again. Sorry, everybody who likes that book. Maybe one day I'll get back to it. So I use 2 platforms basically to write on. Actually, really one platform, and that is Wattpad. So I really think that it's the most user-friendly. I know there's other platforms out there to use, like Archive of Your Own and some others that I don't recall the names of at the moment. I also put work on DeviantArt, but I don't actually write, I guess, in it, you could say. But I do use it. It is mostly for art, though, so literature is not really big there. You're not going to get as much pull on DeviantArt that you would on Wattpad. And Wattpad is kind of cool because you can use it from your phone, you can use it from your desktop, and you can actually write a chapter without publishing it, go through, edit, add pictures, publish, add music, and it's just a really easy way of posting stuff. And you can also use it for not fan fiction. That just happens to be the corner of Wattpad that I'm living in currently. There are other authors on there that write their own original works and novels, and there's also paid authors. You can subscribe to different authors and books, sort of like a Patreon Twitch situation. So you'll have access to their stuff ahead of time. So it's kind of what Wattpad is if you don't know already. I do have a lot of readers that hopefully will listen to this because you guys commented on a lot of shit that I posted. Asked me some questions that we'll get to answer here in a little bit. But I was going to talk about kind of what got me started in writing on Wattpad and go from there. So I'm actually writing a novel, and I started it about 2 years ago. I was having some issues with it. I didn't feel like my writing was really up to par. I was kind of feeling depressed about it. I was maybe 200 pages in at this point, and I just felt like maybe the perspective was off, the way I was wording things was off. It just wasn't coming together as well as I wanted it to, or as well as I had planned for it to in my head. And I was going through Pinterest one day just randomly and kind of stumbled across a picture that had been posted from someone's Wattpad book, and accidentally clicked on the picture twice. So then it took me to the original website that the picture came from, and it happened to be a fanfic for Voltron about Lance and Keith. So Clance is what they call them. And I was super into it, read the whole book in like one night, and decided to look at other stuff on Wattpad and see what I could find, and ended up finding this whole world of One Piece fan fictions and started reading stuff. I think I became a member in July, maybe. I probably should have looked at that first. And then posted my first fanfic in August, probably, which I think was One Night, my law book, that I'm not a huge fan of. It's only 4 chapters. It's not very well written, but hey, we all have to start somewhere. And you learn as you go, too. I think the biggest thing is to read and take in other work before you start writing something, or maybe go ahead and start writing stuff, but also read other people's work. It really help you kind of develop your writing style and kind of learn new vocabulary, which is a big deal, and how you want to do dialogue, descriptive terms, things like that. So yeah, that's a big thing that you're going to want to do, especially if you're starting out. It's just taking other people's work, start your own. The more you write, the better you're going to get. At least that's the idea, right? So that's kind of my, I guess, a little humble beginning here on Wattpad and writing in fan fictions. I do have to say, I was hella nervous when I first posted one night. And don't, when you post your first story, I guess, don't expect it to blow up overnight. It does take a while to kind of get a following going and votes and comments and things like that. Um, and if you finished a book and it's not getting a whole lot of attention, write another. I kept going with mine. I finished one night. It was only 4 chapters. I did a little two-shot for Zorro called Just Friends. And then I started working on Distraction with That's My Kid's Story. And it's still pretty popular, even though kids super OOC in that book. And I have a love-hate relationship with it. But you guys seem to like it a lot, and that makes me happy. So I will leave it alone. But it's finished, and it has its own little one-shot continuation that was voted on by you guys a couple of years ago. So, and a couple of years ago, which is crazy. I can't believe I've been doing this for 2 years already. And it's just, you guys make me so happy. It's so rewarding to put something out and get immediate feedback now. And I started out so small and I was so afraid. And now we've got kind of a cozy little reader base on Wattpad. And you guys are super supportive and also very demanding sometimes, but I love you anyway. So there's that. Anyway, I have a bit of a Q&A section that will start here in a little bit. I do want to apologize. I know I say a cajillion times while I'm talking. It's just my brain trying to process what's going on here. I'm a bit nervous, it is episode 1. So we'll get through it. Hopefully we'll loosen up and get more comfortable here. So anyway, we're going to move on to the Q&A section, I guess. We have a few questions. You guys asked me some good ones this week, so I'm kind of excited to see where this goes, and hopefully you guys keep them going. Don't be afraid to ask more than 1 or 2-part questions or get kind of complicated with it. Stump me. Maybe don't stump me. I'll have to do some research for some of them sometimes. So, but anyway, we'll start here. So, Kaya Silden on Wattpad asked, I'm going to kind of paraphrase her question here because it was kind of a bit of a paragraph, but is it normal to start with a storyline and then when you're writing, you end up with something else? Yes, I do it all the time. I know a lot of writers do like a plot graph or plan their plots out. I don't really do that. I just don't have time. Mostly, I have a full-time job that eats up a lot of my time. So I'll kind of have a plan for where I want the story to go ultimately. And then chapter by chapter is kind of different. It takes a turn, I guess you could say. And there's nothing wrong with that. Even if you do have a plot plan, like exactly what's going to happen in every single chapter, who the characters are going to interact with, what drama is going to happen, what drama is not going to happen, whatever. You might start with something and start writing a conversation, and it takes a turn that you didn't expect it to take, and you're writing it. It just depends on where your inspiration goes, I guess. And you might even be halfway through a book and kind of decide to change your trajectory or change how it's going to end even. It just depends. So I think it's pretty normal, and I know I do it all the time. And that's a lot of the reason why I do it is because I just don't have a plan because I'm lazy. And I'm a terrible planner. But it does happen. So I think there's nothing wrong with it. I think it gives you a more kind of organic storyline, I guess, maybe. And you can even surprise yourself with it. So, and then we have a Nymph of Darkness on DeviantArt asked me what I do when I have writer's block. So This is kind of a product of my writer's block, I think. Fan fiction is anyway. Like I said earlier, I was writing a novel. I wasn't happy with it, but also was kind of at a standstill with the storyline. And I think that a lot of that had to do with me not being happy with it, but I just didn't have a whole lot of character development and there were a lot of problems. And I'm still working those out. Um, but I do get writer's block with my fan fictions as well. If you haven't noticed, I think I've got 24 or 25 books posted, and I think 11 of them are ongoing because I hop from one book to another. I get obsessed with one book. I think we all know which one I'm obsessed with currently, or have been for the last, almost a year, is my Zorro book, The One. But I do get writer's block with that one as well. There's a lot of family drama in that one, and trying to keep everything going with all of the brothers plus Zorro gets a little complicated sometimes. I have other books that you guys demand updates for too, like my Killer book and my Shanks book. And I'm sure it's very frustrating when instead of updating one of those, I write a one shot. That is kind of my favorite thing to do when I have writer's block. I think some of the reasons why I get so hung up in my books is because I'll have like a random thought of something else that I want to do, and I want to start a whole new book. So it's easier just to write a one shot, I guess. So I can kind of get all of those thoughts out in 1,500 to 2,000 words. And you guys are usually happy with it. I also like to listen to music. I draw and paint as well. So sometimes I'll just take a break from writing altogether. Sometimes I won't do anything creative, which is terrible. Don't do that. I do work a lot. My schedule for work is kind of sporadic. I work the nights mostly. But I'm the manager of, a small staff. So when somebody's out sick, I end up having to cover for them, and kind of can turn into a hectic week for me occasionally. So I'll get lazy on my day off and I won't be as creative as I should be. And this is kind of where this podcast is coming from. There's another outlet for me to kind of get that out. I know that I haven't written in, I think 3 weeks was the last time I updated something. So I'm sorry, you guys. I love you. Don't hate me, please. That's what I do when I get writer's block, though. I really love to write one shots, and I might do that. And song fic one shots are the fucking jam, because you can kind of use up your this is terrible. You can kind of use up your word count with lyrics, but it also can really go with your little story, especially if you're really feeling a song. So, it's a good creative way to just kind of, I guess, change the tempo and get it out. Sorry, I have everything written down in a little book here, so the pages are going to be loud. The next question is from my wonderful friend Abyss Chronica. If you guys don't know her, she is on Wattpad, she is on DeviantArt, same username. Go follow her. She's amazing. All her work is fantastic. She kind of hit me with a bit of a question that stumped me, I guess, a little bit. But she said, when you're writing characters of a fanfic, when does personal interpretation end and OOC begin? I know I said OOC earlier in this, in my ramblings. If you don't know what it means out of character. I think to answer that question, you really just have to know the character you're writing about. I think OOC, for me, depends on how well I know them. Like I said, the first kid book that I wrote, he's so OOC. And that also has to do with the setting as well. In that book, it's an AU. AU means alternate universe. So he's kind of in our world where he wouldn't be on a murderous rampage, I guess, all of the time. So it's a bit different. I feel like you can tone down some of those big flamboyant characteristics that they have in One Piece. I have a Sanji book as well that is also an AU, and he is definitely not skipping around with a tornado for legs and hearts popping out of his face in that book. I've toned down a lot. He's still very romantic or into romance and wants to um, kind of throw up compliments when he sees the reader, but it's not as obnoxious as he would be in the anime or in the One Piece world. So I think in those situations, it's okay to kind of take them out of their normal little box of where they live in the One Piece world. On the other hand, it does have a lot to do with how well you know them. I have a book based on Killer. I really thought it would be fun to write for him because we don't see a lot of him. And I also wanted to I liked the idea of having Killer, who's always in a mask, paired with Gypsy the reader, who, because of the devil fruit that she's eaten, can't speak. She can, but she'll kill you. So, if you haven't read that book, it's called Silent. Go check it out. It's great. I think it's great. Maybe that's because I wrote it. But I also don't know a lot about Killer, and I think as we're going through Wano here, we're hopefully gonna learn more. We have learned a little bit, and it could turn into a situation where now my whole book is he's OOC, and that's not really how he is. Those are just the bits that we've gotten of his personality as we've seen him interact with Kid in the few scenes that we've seen him in so far, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I think it really depends on one, you're setting, and two, how well you know them. If you don't think you know a character very well, I would suggest looking into them. Do your research before you write something. I definitely do. And if you, from your research, can't really get a grasp of that character, don't write about them or make them a background or a side character so that you don't have to focus so much on their personality until we're introduced to them further or we get more backstory, something like that. And then you can kind of take it to a place where you have them in the foreground and make everything about them. So I hope that answered your question, C. Last question is from Amethyst Ora-chan on Wattpad. She's also another beautiful friend that I have. And her question actually isn't about fanfiction so much as it is about devil fruits. And I'm not as well versed in all of these, so I did have to look some stuff up for this. If I'm wrong, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing something correctly. I don't speak Japanese, so there is also that. Anyway, so she asked, what are Marco and X Drake's fruits and how are they different from everyone else's? So their fruits are different, which is, it's kind of fun to see the different devil fruits that Oda comes up with and how they all differ, and it's not quite the same as just having superpowers, which I really enjoy. So Marco's is called the Tori Tori no Mi. Which I believe translates to tweet tweet fruit. I really hope it does because that's fucking adorable and makes me love Marco even more than I already do. But his is a mythical zone. It's the modelless phoenix. The cool thing about Marco's is that it is kind of a mix of all of the devil fruits in one. So you have the animal portion of the zone. You have the paramecia portion where it's kind of overpowered and superhuman like. And then you have the Logia portion where he can turn into flames. So that's kind of where he's different and a little bit special. And I think a lot of people there's lots of theories by fans that he doesn't look his age because of his devil fruit. But then we kind of found out his age, and I think he does kind of look like he's 45, but that's just me. Whatever. We're only 10 years apart. So I see you, Marco. Anyway, X Drake's fruit is the Ryu no Mi. Ryu is the Japanese word for dragon. It's also part of the word for dinosaur. His is an ancient zone. The model is Allosaurus. It's pretty standard. So even though it's ancient, so it's a different type of zone, he still has the hybrid forms, like Chopper does. We haven't really seen a whole lot about Drake, so I don't know. I don't know what those hybrid forms are. I'm assuming we will learn more as we go on, especially since it appears that we're going to be seeing him a little bit more, since Wano and the Reverie have happened. No spoilers, but anyway, those are the questions that we got for this week's episode. I'm really excited to get going with those. Hopefully, you guys can give me more questions for next week's episode. You can ask more than one, two-part questions, whatever. Stump me. I'm more than happy to do some research and look some things up. So there. Moving on, I did play a little game with you guys in the last couple of days where I asked who of 4 characters you would kick out. We're going to do kind of different versions of this game as we move forward, and I'll explain them as I go when I post them on Wattpad and DeviantArt. This week, I kind of did a fangirl hot guy edition and took 4 of the more popular guy characters and asked you guys. I basically said, well, 3 of them you can keep and 1 of them just has to go. I was a little bit surprised, to be completely honest, of who got the most votes. But out of 35 total votes between 2 platforms, poor kid got kicked out. Nobody wanted to keep him, which I'm not going to lie, he's my first one to go to. Sorry, Abyss, but I know you'll keep him and you'll take care of him. I think the reason why a lot of people kicked him out, and they did explain, some of them did explain, is just that, he's a tyrant. It's the attitude. I know personally, I would annoy the fuck out of him. So I know our personalities wouldn't mesh very well. That's why I let him go first. I can narrow it down to the one that I would keep, which I can still do for people who don't know me. But if you do know me on Wattpad, Instagram, Facebook, in real life, you're probably going to know who I'm going to keep out of the 4. But the 4 choices were Kid, Law, Zoro, and Ace. So Kid got kicked out first. The runner-up, believe it or not, was Ace. And I think that has to do with, for a lot of people who commented on it, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's not alive. Basically, we didn't get to have that attachment to Ace that we've had with everyone else. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't when I first watched One Piece, and everyone told me I was gonna be upset when the Marineford arc happened, and I wasn't. And I was kind of disappointed in myself. I felt like I should have been, maybe. But I wasn't attached to Ace really in any way. And I think a lot of, as my husband and our friend said to me, it's not so much that we lost Ace, but Luffy's reaction to losing Ace was upsetting. So I wasn't upset with that. I cried when the boat burned, but I had no emotion whatsoever when Ace died. Is there something wrong with me for that? Probably. But anyway, I think a lot of people were more okay with letting Ace go because we didn't get to have that emotional attachment with him that we've had with other characters. And I don't think we've had that emotional attachment, to be completely honest, with Kid. I think we haven't seen him enough, but we've probably seen him more than we have, or more than we got to see Ace. I was really excited about the Wano arc because we got to have a flashback with Ace interacting with Tama, and that was really cool. I think since I've been writing fanfiction, I've grown a massive appreciation for his character, and that might just be a projection of everyone else's idea of Ace rather than how he really is. But I don't know. I think I get it. So Ace was the second one to go. The next the next one to go for all of you guys shame on you, was Zorro. And I don't understand why. He's the best. I don't know why you wouldn't keep him, but whatever. he was he was a runner up for that. I didn't really get many explanations actually when people voted for Zorro. They just said Zorro. So I'm not sure. I'm kind of stink eyeing all of you. And then I guess the most the most kept is Law. I get it, I guess. Who doesn't want a handsome doctor? Question mark. um, I think it was a major toss up between who's gonna keep Law or Zorro. I feel like their characters are very similar. They're both quiet. They're both kind of done with everybody's shit. Zorro, on the other hand, can be a little bit silly sometimes, and it feels like Law is kind of all business. So there's that difference between them. But it does seem that Law has the most fangirls, probably. I do have people go through my one-shot book and read all of or vote only on all my Law stories. I see you guys. I see you not reading the other one-shots. That Frankie one is really good. You should check it out. Anyway, and then I had two people who wanted to comment on it, but absolutely refused to pick a side. One of them said she would kick herself out, so she didn't have to. So she didn't have to choose. That's not how this game works, young lady. So next week, I think what I'm gonna do is have you guys pick 4 characters for me to narrow down. I think I'll set a theme or kind of, I don't know, a baseline or something, just so we're not getting repetitive and I don't want to have the same 4 characters every time because, I mean, really, when you guys give me the option of keeping Zorro, I'm gonna fucking keep him. So don't. I think that's what we'll do next time is I'll have you guys pick and I'll tally up who gets the most votes and then from there I'll choose and kind of explain to you guys why I'm choosing who I'm choosing, if that makes any sense. So we'll do that for the next one. So moving on, I did want to do or talk about, I guess, some etiquette stuff for commenting. I know not everybody who listens to this is going to be a writer, so I get that. Which is why I wanted to kind of address this from a writer's standpoint or perspective so that you guys can kind of see how we see comments. And to help you know not how to comment, but to be mindful of what you're saying when you're commenting in someone else's books. So I do mostly, thankfully, thank you guys, get a ton of really supportive comments, and that's fantastic, and I love it. And I'm hoping that you go to other authors and leave them the same kind of supportive stuff that you leave me. Occasionally, though, you do get the commenter who's trying to be constructive and wants to help you with something that they feel, I guess, you're not adequately describing or don't know much about. Maybe it's your spelling or your grammar, which, hey, I am totally guilty of being terrible at both of them. It sucks to want to be a writer and try to be a talented writer and then suck at grammar and spelling. So there's that. But I think sometimes you guys also will comment on certain passages as a meme or with a joke or take a serious situation in one of the books and kind of turn it into something funny or a competition with, you know, maybe in one of my books, the writer had some issues with her mom that weren't the best, and it was kind of an abusive situation. And I had a reader comment on it saying, you know, that it was worse for her and just something silly like that. You have to be mindful that sometimes when people are writing books like this, they're pulling from their life experiences. So you maybe don't say something like that. It can be offensive. And I know that you're not supposed to just know everything about the person who's writing the story. I get that. But at the same time, think about where you get inspiration to do things that you enjoy doing. If it's art, where does your inspiration come from? It might be a painful place. You might need to get something like that out of your system. So just think about that before you comment jokingly on a serious note in somebody's book. Um, Also, if you're going to correct somebody, please do your research and know exactly what you're talking about. I have gotten into arguments with commenters or readers before when they only knew one side of something or didn't know really in depth how something worked. Some people really enjoy constructive criticism. I don't mind it, but it depends on how you come at me with it. There's certain ways to word things that aren't exactly the nicest. I've had readers correct me in a way that kind of felt attacked. And you don't want the person you're trying to help to feel like you're ambushing them. You also don't want them to feel like you're diminishing their work, and it can be like that sometimes. I would suggest politely sending them a message privately instead of leaving a comment on the story. So, but there are some writers that are pretty open about getting constructive criticism and spelling errors and things like that. I think it's important to know who you're commenting on. Look at the author's profile, see if they have anything personal posted. I know I have a few things that you can go through. I feel like I interact with you guys enough or interact with my readers enough to where you guys know where I'm coming from most of the time. And I'm a pretty jovial, joking, sarcastic person, but I'm also stick with my work. And I think occasionally I can get offended too quickly. Actually, I don't think. I know that I do that. So for me, in my situation, I would appreciate getting a message privately as opposed to having someone comment on something that I've written and stuff like that. So just be mindful of who you're talking to or how you're coming at them. Be nice. Just be polite. It's not difficult. And know what you're talking about. Those are just my high points on commenting etiquette if you're gonna try to be constructive, or help someone out, I guess. So, um, I did want to do another little game, which I guess we're gonna be doing kind of a lot, but it's fun to be entertaining and to see what you guys will say because I want to know what your take on the stuff is too. So, um, I know that a lot of what I'm going to talk about is probably going to be One Piece. So if you don't like One Piece, I'm sorry. But I do, I do watch other animes and read other mangas, and we will touch on others as well. So you know that will happen, and that's where kind of we're going next with it. Is I wanted to play a little game of Would You Rather. So I'm going to ask you guys. Uh, would you rather two different things and there's consequences for some of it and the other one it's not, but you have to choose. You can only do one or the other and you don't get to decide what your consequences are. I will tell you what they are, and then below in the comment section or hit me up on Wattpad or one of my other social medias and let me know which you would choose, and we'll talk about it on the next episode. But this week's Would You Rather, I wanted to see if would you rather have a shitty quirk? So if you follow the anime or manga Boku no Hero Academia, you'll know that most of the characters have quirks, which gives them superhuman abilities. Some of them are really awesome and great, like All Might, and some of them are not so great. and I'll spare you my opinion of the not so great ones. But so would you rather have a shitty quirk being like something like your fingernails grow super long. Something that's not useful enough to allow you to be a hero, so you have to be on the support team or something like that. Or your other option would be to have a really badass contractor from Darker Than Black. If you don't know that anime, please go check it out. It's amazing. It's a complete work already. In that their powers are called contractors. And for having a contractor, you have to pay the price, which is an uncontrollable compulsion every single time you use your ability. So every time you use your ability, you have to do this uncontrollable urge or action, and that allows you to continue to use your ability. So the uncontrollable urge would be to break your finger, and for doing that you could like fucking shapeshift into a tiger or some shit. Maybe something cooler than that. That's just off the top of my head. There was a character in it that I cannot for the life of me right now remember what her ability was, but her payment was she had to eat a pack of cigarettes. She had to eat it, not smoke it. She had to break them in her mouth and eat them. That's disgusting. I would never want to have to do that. But I don't know if I would pick having to do something shitty for an ability over having a shitty ability. So I guess you guys tell me what you would do. Would you rather have a crappy quirk that's not very useful, or have a super useful contractor ability and have to break your fingers every time you do it? Y'all tell me in the comments below. Or let me know on Wattpad. And we'll talk about it next week on next week's episode. And I'll come up with a better, hopefully better, would you rather. And then the final thing that I want to do today is a little game I like to call, well, most people like to call actually, Fuck, Marry, Kill. So this week's edition, we're going to do this every week, by the way. This week's edition is the Monster Trio. So One Piece again. If you don't know who the Monster Trio is, it's Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro. I want to know which you would which you would marry, which you would fuck, and which you would kill. Just get them out of the picture. You don't have to deal with them. I am pretty sure you guys all know who I would choose, but I'll go ahead and tell you anyway. I love Luffy to death. He is my little brother, but I would totally kill him. Who wouldn't fuck Sanji? And of course, I would marry Zoro and spend the rest of eternity with him. So there's that. You guys let me know who you would fuck, marry, kill of those three, or the order in which you would do so, I should say. In the comments below, hit me up on Wattpad and let me know. Just some things that I've got going on. We're kind of wrapping it up here. I am working on some collaborations right now with a few different authors on Wattpad. Also working on the next chapter of The One, and it has been demanded of me to update Shanks, which is online, is the name of that book. So I am working on that, you guys. I'm sorry that I only update that once a year. And I think I'm also working on a chapter of Closure, which you guys demand as well, which is a law book. So those are kind of things to look forward coming up here in the fall. It's October. Finally, it's going to get cooler. I can be a lot more productive. Things at my job will calm down a bit and I'll be able to write a little bit more. So, I'm very excited about all of that. And, you guys can find me on Wattpad. My username is Lindsay H. That's LYNDSYH. On DeviantArt, it's Lindsay24. Pretty straightforward. LYNDSY24. You can follow me on Instagram. It's Art by Lindsay. Or you can also hit me up on Twitter, which is at the Lady Bun Bun. And yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below here on the YouTube channel. I'm going to try to have updates at least every week. Well, it will be every week, but at least every either Wednesday or Thursday, depending on my work schedule. So anyway, thanks for coming down and listening. And we will see you guys next week. Have a great day.